Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Allergic Living's Talking Food Allergies video series. I'm your host, Gwen Smith, and joining me today is college student Spencer Wirtheim. Great to meet you, Spencer.
Nice to meet you too, Gwen.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to be talking all about your experiences managing severe food allergies at college. Now, I know you're a strong self-advocate and you worked with the college staff on your special diet needs, and that's mostly gone well. However, you have experienced two serious allergic reactions while at college. This includes one that was particularly alarming because the trigger was so unexpected. It's a story we can all learn from. But before we dive in, let me take a moment to thank our sponsor for this video, AviQ. AviQ is an epinephrine auto-injector with built-in voice instructions. Learn more about it at their website, aviq.com, which is AUVI-Q.com. So, Spencer, let's get this started. Give us a little bit of your background first with severe food allergies. What are your food allergies and when did you develop them?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to the beginning. I think I was 5 years old, and I was at Thanksgiving. I was outside playing football catch with my dad, uncle, and grandpa, and I went inside and I was eating. I think it was like these like cheese puffs or whatever, and all of a sudden my face started breaking out in hives, and my eyes started getting swollen, and my body's covered in hives. I was like, "What is going on?" Like I've eaten cheese puffs a million times, and I didn't know what the cause was, and I took Benadryl, and things were better. And then I realized, me and my mom were talking afterwards, that my uncle, grandpa, and dad were eating cashews and then touching the football, and then I would catch the football, and then I went inside and I didn't wash my hands before eating, and that's how I found out that I was allergic to nuts. So afterwards, I went to the allergen and I was tested. I pricked on my back and found out that I was allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. And I just stay away from all nuts, but I'm severely allergic to those.
Right. And, it's interesting that you use Benadryl, which, of course, we don't really use these days. We know that epinephrine's the first line, but if you didn't know you had any allergies, how would you know that? So, or how would your parents know that? So, but that's from a young age. Did you have other reactions, through your grade school years?
No, I ate, my mom and family ate peanut butter before. My mom would make peanut butter cookies and I didn't like them for some reason, but I never had a reaction to them. And then I was 5 years old and that event happened. And then afterwards I got tested and then I just stayed away from all nuts.
So you guys did a really good job managing because it can be tricky. Now let's go to college. Tell us about your time at Cornell University, and in particular about playing on the lacrosse team. I gather lacrosse is a really important sport to you.
Yes, very important. I played since I was about 5 years old as well. So I'm 23 now, so I've been playing for my whole life. I always wanted to go to Cornell and play lacrosse there. Both my parents went there. I'm from Baldwinsville, New York, so it's like an hour and 15 away. I used to grow up like going to the games. And I was lucky enough to go there. And the best thing, or one of the best things about Cornell was like the dining halls are very allergen friendly. Each station is labeled with what allergens it contains. So it contains milk or soy, or contains nuts. So it's very easy to manage. And also on the lacrosse team, we have a director of operations guy who I would let him know that I had an allergy to nuts and let my teammates know. And he would book like the restaurants on the road and get meals for us, and he would call and make sure that everything was safe for me.
Okay, so I just want to mention as well, people should know you're a really skilled player. I gather this past season you had 11 goals and 12 assists. That sounds pretty amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was it
Yeah, I've
was
been
it a good season for you relative to others?
yeah. I've played 3 years, and the first year or my first 2 years at school were canceled because of COVID.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my didn't happen. The first year we were 5-0 and then canceled in the second year the Ivy League was the only teams not to play. So I ended up taking that semester off, and that's why I have this extra year of eligibility that I'm using at UNC this year. But at Cornell, I played in a national championship that first year back, 2022. I was starting midfielder, and then last year we went to the tournament, and then this past year we didn't go to the tournament. We had a good year, but this is definitely my best statistical year. But I've enjoyed being a starting midfielder over the last couple of years, and looking forward to my next chapter at UNC.
That's great. Yeah, that's University of North Carolina for those who aren't as familiar. Is that at Chapel Hill?
Yes, it is.
Oh, great. Okay.
Right
Um,
now.
let's talk about this severe allergic reaction that I mentioned that was so unexpected. Now, I believe, was that just ahead of a lacrosse practice? What happened?
Yeah, so I go out to practice, and usually our practices are pretty intense, but I was out of breath pretty early into the practice. Um, and I was very confused what was going on. Been out of breath at practice before, but not this early, as I mentioned. And I felt like my eye was starting to itch. And I went over to my teammates, and I was like, maybe I got like a turf pellet in my eye or something. And I was like, is there anything in my eye? He's like, oh, it's a little red, but nothing. I don't see anything major. And practice goes on, and I'm still like really out of breath. And I'm like, can't catch my breath. Um, and I went over to my trainer, and she's like, oh my God, like you need to go see your face right now.
Oh,
So we went into the locker room together, and she's like, look at your face. And my eyes are just like swollen shut and
oh yeah.
massive. And she said, you need to use your AviQ. And I was like, oh my God, like really? I was like, all right. And I saw my face, and I just used it right away in the locker room. It's very easy to use. I'd used it before in the fall for the first time ever. And that was a more severe reaction. That one I actually ingested peanut sauce accidentally. So that one I was really felt my throat closing, but this one was more lighter, and I just felt like my eyes really swollen. I didn't have hives all over my body,
So
but I used the
Spencer,
AviQ.
let me interrupt you here though. People be wondering, what did you eat, or fill us in about this trigger for this big reaction that was
Yeah.
pretty unusual.
Yeah. So I use my AviQ, then I go to the hospital, and I'm sitting there. And my trainer's like, what did you eat today? And I'm like, nothing out of the ordinary. I ate everything that I've eaten most of my life. Like I don't remember eating anything that was even questionable, like not even a may contain. Um, and I get back to the locker room the following day, and I go to wash my hands. I wear contacts when I play. So I go to wash my hands, put my contacts in, and I turn the soap around, and it was almond soap. And I
Oh
was
my
like, oh my
gosh.
God. So I
Yeah.
put almonds literally into my eye, like stuck behind my contact lenses.
Like it
And
caused ingestion.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. Like my mom would always be like, be careful of like products with like shampoo, like there's like almond like shampoo and all that stuff. But I didn't even think about the soap because we had soap there before us, and it looked all the same. Like nothing looked different. But it
Yeah.
was just turned around. So I didn't see the label. And it was yeah, that's how I found out that it was
Let's
almond
come
soap that
back.
caused it.
That's amazing. It is so kind of weird, and they can happen that way. Yeah. It impresses me that you did use your auto injector right away because, we hear it from our followers, and even studies show that a lot of people hesitate to use it. So, did you just know better than to kind of wait and see?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I had that reaction in the fall, and that one was definitely more severe. And I called my mom. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like I feel like I just threw up, and I'm really itchy in my eyes. I'm like, oh, I'm having an allergic reaction. Like as I'm talking to her about the symptoms to her, I'm like, I'm having an allergic reaction. Like this is it. And then my friend drove me to the hospital, and I got there, but it was crazy how fast the IQ worked. Like I was literally driving with him in the car, and just rolled up my shorts and just injected myself with it. Um, and it was super easy to use, talked me through the whole thing.
Tell us
Yeah.
about that one. because we
Yeah.
didn't really describe that one so well. I think you said when we emailed that it was to restaurant food.
Yeah. So my mom has conditioned me to every time you go out to eat, you tell the waiter or the waitress that I have an allergy to nuts. And I always ask, is this safe, or what oil do you use, or like what do you fry? What do you fry stuff in? Just to make sure. And I had eaten at this Chinese place in town before and been fine. And I was like, I really want to try the lo mein. And they had lo mein on Cornell's campus that was safe, that had no nuts in it. And I looked on the website online and it listed the ingredients and it didn't say anything about a peanut sauce. So I start eating it. Um, and I just start just feeling terrible, like sick to my stomach and then itchy, like I just mentioned. And I call the restaurants back and I'm like, is there peanuts in here? And they're like, oh yeah, there's peanut sauce. I'm like, well, I'm why didn't you list that like on the website? Like that's terrible. And then I had the whole reaction. And every time I go out to eat, I always ask. And the one time that I don't double check, it happens. So even if you feel comfortable with it or and you're used to asking or used to being safe, like you just always have to ask because the one time I didn't, it bit me in the butt.
Yeah, and it can and it does, and it's something, it's good to share with all college students, I think, to remember that. Now let's go back to the one though that was so weird with the eyes. What was the recovery like after that reaction? Did you have to miss the next big game?
Yeah, so that allergic reaction was on a Wednesday and we were playing Saturday. So the next day I was out of practice. It can be a lot when you have allergic reaction. You can become pretty drained afterwards. Your body goes through a lot. And so I missed the next day of practice. I was able to play Friday, practice Friday. And at practice Friday, one of my coaches said that if I score, I should do an ABQ celebration. And I thought that was a great idea. My teammates thought that was a great idea. Everyone thought it was a great idea and we played Dartmouth Saturday and ended up scoring. And after I scored, I did like an injection celebration, and everyone on the bench loved it. My coaches loved it, and afterwards, when I got done out of the game, I checked my phone, and a lot of my friends from home and family were texting me like, "Did you really just do an barbecue celebration?" And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't, not many people knew outside of my teammates that I had a reaction. Obviously, my parents knew and brother and sister, but
Yeah.
extended family didn't know, and they loved it, and they thought it was the one of the coolest things.
Now, despite two reactions, you certainly do seem to be on top of managing your food allergies, and you confess to the error of your ways on the one, and carrying epinephrine. Thinking of others headed to college with life-threatening allergies, do you have any tips to help reduce reaction risks?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends and guys on the team that are allergic to things and they don't carry an IBQ, which blows my mind because of what can happen. I feel like my worst nightmare is I'm with that person and they have allergic reaction and I give them my IBQ and then I have one and I don't have one. But I guess just always just if you have a reaction or an allergy, then you need to be carrying it with you because it can save your life. So number one, carry it with you. Number two, let your friends, roommates, or teammates know so that they know if it's one to be careful around you, and two, if something happens, they know what's happening. If you're on a team, your athletic trainer should have one, and your coaches should know that you have an allergy. And then, like I said, the dining halls at Cornell were great because they listed everything. But if they don't do that, I'm sure you can ask and they will tell you. So yeah, just that's some advice.
But what about at UNC? Now, it is always a challenge when you change schools. How are you letting their dining and housing team know about your food allergies?
Yeah, so I've only been here a few days. I just moved in, but I been to the dining halls. I was working at lacrosse camp this week actually. And I would go to the dining halls and they would have the allergens listed and I would ask. So and a couple of my teammates, one's actually like celiac, so we kind of bonded over that right away, talking about our food problems. And then I've only met a handful of them so far because only a couple of them are here working the camp. But I would just let them know that I have an allergy to nuts, and then when we go on the road and get meals, I will let my director of operations guy know.
Spencer, that's great. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your great advice with Allergic Living's followers. I'd like to just thank our sponsor for the video, AviQ. AviQ is an epinephrine auto-injector with built-in voice instructions. Learn more about it at their website, which is auvi-q.com.
Thank you.
Indication: AviQ epinephrine injection USP is a prescription medicine used to treat life-threatening allergic reactions, including anaphylaxis, in people who are at risk for or have a history of serious allergic reactions. Important safety information: AviQ is for immediate self or caregiver administration and does not take the place of emergency medical care. Seek immediate medical treatment after using AviQ. Each AviQ contains a single dose of epinephrine. AviQ should only be injected into your outer thigh, through clothing if necessary. If you inject a young child or infant with AviQ, hold their leg firmly in place before and during the injection to prevent injuries. Do not inject AviQ into any other part of your body, such as into veins, buttocks, fingers, toes, hands, or feet. If this occurs, seek immediate medical treatment and make sure to inform the healthcare provider of the location of the accidental injection. Only a healthcare provider should give additional doses of epinephrine if more than 2 doses are necessary for a single allergic emergency. Rarely, patients who use AviQ may develop infections at the injection site within a few days of an injection. Some of these infections can be serious. Call your healthcare provider right away if you have any of the following symptoms at an injection site: redness that does not go away, swelling, tenderness, or the area feels warm to the touch. If you have certain medical conditions or take certain medicines, your condition may get worse, or you may have more or longer lasting side effects when you use AviQ. Be sure to tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines you take, especially medicines for asthma. Also tell your healthcare provider about all of your medical conditions, especially if you have asthma, a history of depression, thyroid problems, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, heart problems, or high blood pressure, have any other medical conditions, are pregnant or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding or plan to breastfeed. Epinephrine should be used with caution if you have heart disease or are taking certain medicines that can cause heart-related cardiac symptoms. Common side effects include fast, irregular, or pounding heartbeat, sweating, shakiness, headache, paleness, feelings of overexcitement, nervousness, or anxiety, weakness, dizziness, nausea, and vomiting, or breathing problems. These side effects usually go away quickly, especially if you rest. Tell your healthcare provider if you have any side effect that bothers you or that does not go away. Please see the full prescribing information and patient information available at www.auvi-q.com. You are encouraged to report negative side effects of prescription drugs to the FDA. Visit www.fda.gov/medwatch or call 1-800-FDA-1088.